Welcome back to Teen TV Deep Dive. Here on this channel, we talk about all things Teen TV. Today, we're going to be doing a little bit of a throwback. It feels crazy to say that this show is a throwback, but we're going to be talking about season 1 of the TV show Glee. It had a lot of popularity in the late 2000s and early 2010s, but today I wanted to investigate and figure out, was Glee camp or controversial? But before we get into that, I wanted to tell you guys just the premise of the show and get into each character and their motivations and all those sorts of things. So, like I said, first I wanted to tell you the premise of the show. Glee basically starts when a high school teacher named Will Schuester tries to revamp the Glee Club at the school that he works at. Will feels especially passionate to reignite this club because he was a student at the school that he works at and he was also a part of the Glee Club. So he posts the audition for the Glee Club, and we have 5 kids that end up auditioning and wanting to join. Those kids are Rachel, Mercedes, Tina, Artie, and Kurt. Will does see some talent and some potential with this group of kids, but he still feels like something's off, like the group doesn't really have a leader. So he ends up enlisting a popular football player named Finn. Finn enters the group, and Will starts to kind of see the vision. And then later, Finn eventually inspires his football player friends like Puck, Mike Chang, and Matt. And then he also has a girlfriend named Quinn who's a cheerleader, but on Glee we call the cheerleaders Cheerios. So she ends up joining with her friends Brittany and Santana. So now that we have this group of about 12 people join, it's really starting to go really well, and they're called the New Directions, and we're starting to see a vision, starting to see potential. But still, we see that Glee Club is considered lame, and a lot of the kids face bullying because, especially those OG members, the first to join the New Directions, did face a lot more backlash because they weren't cool at all and were already dealing with a lot of bullying. Oftentimes, the bullying was done by those same popular people that ended up joining the club at a later date. But we also do see the football players and Cheerios aren't too much liked anymore by their peers because they've committed the worst possible social crime that they could do, which is to join such a lame thing like show choir. With that, we just see that this New Directions is something that's very positive and a good thing that's entered all of the kids' lives, but it's so many people that are working against them, like the school won't really want to fund the club anymore because they're listening to student input and they know it's not really the hot, cool place to be. So the school isn't really willing to put much funding into it, as well as the cheerleading coach, Sue Sylvester, doesn't like anything related to do with the arts. She feels like cheerleading is the best, most elite possible thing to do at their high school. So she wants to take as much money as she possibly can and fund it into her club. So the first Glee Club member that we see is Rachel. She kind of is the main character, whether we like it or not. This show does have a larger cast, so I will say that's why it's kind of hard to pinpoint a specific main character. But Rachel, we see, is very hungry for spotlight. Her backstory is kind of that she's grown up with her 2 dads wanting the best possible life for her, where they've enrolled her in dance, theater, everything possible to try and make her dreams of being a Broadway star come true. But she's very snippy and willing to get very dirty and nasty for the spotlight. And what I mean by that is she's willing to blackmail, kind of make people feel bad to the point where she's bullying them out of their spot and willing to climb her way to the top by any means necessary. But we see through all of that, Rachel is actually secretly insecure. She wants to be the spotlight. She wants to be the star of the show because she thinks that it will make people see her talent and finally appreciate her. And this girl who was once bullied and picked on about her looks will now finally be everything that she's ever seen within herself, but she's really looking for other people to validate her for that. I personally think this stems from not knowing who her mom is. Like I said, Rachel had two dads. They ended up going through like adoption or something like that. So her mom ended up choosing to give her away, and she signed off her rights without being able to talk to Rachel until she turns 18. And so with that, I feel like Rachel really feels like she has to fight for attention and validation because what she truly wants is a mom. And we see that especially during the whole Lady Gaga episode where everyone else's mom or parents had helped them try and put together an outfit for Lady Gaga week, but Rachel didn't have that. And so she felt a little down and sad. And I do feel like this is a large reason as to why Rachel has this kind of void within her. We do see in the first season that Rachel does kind of develop a crush on Finn, even though he's in a relationship with Quinn and Finn is super popular. We see that he's not too much interested in her. And so through that, Rachel is like, you know what? Okay, fine. You don't want me, whatever. She ends up meeting this guy named Jesse St. James. He goes to their rival high school when it comes to the matter of Glee and art. He goes to their rival school, and him and Rachel hit it off very hard. They have the same drive and passion that they see for wanting to be the best and just trying to have a good career within music and singing. And I do think that that was a really good relationship for Rachel. A lot of people in the Glee Club thinks that she got into the relationship to try and make Finn jealous. I do agree with that, but at the same time, I do see some aspects and qualities of the relationship that Rachel had with Jesse that could have been good for her. I'm not so sure about the long run, but for the time being, I do think that that was a good relationship for her to be in. Again, we see that Rachel really is seeking validation, and I do think that's why she has such a big crush on Finn. They are also kind of the leaders of Glee Club, but at the same time, I do think that with Finn being popular and them working in close contact, if Rachel felt like she could get Finn to like her, it would be the ultimate sense of validation that she could possibly get because the quarterback, the golden boy of their high school, could have feelings for little old Rachel. She felt like it would be just amazing for her. And we also see that when Finn's girlfriend Quinn ends up joining the Glee Club, it's partially because she was sent out by her cheerleading coach Sue to try and spy on the Glee Club and kind of prey on their downfall. But at the same time, I do think a part of Quinn joining Glee Club was so that she could keep an eye out for Finn and Rachel because she could kind of see the vibes between them. And Rachel definitely did pick up on that. And so that's why I think Rachel liked Finn and she liked Finn wanting her because it felt like she had a one up on Quinn. If Quinn is the super pretty and popular girl in school, your man likes me. So I feel like Rachel definitely had multiple reasons than one as to why she had such strong feelings for Finn. The next person, because we kept bringing his name up so much, I wanted to talk about Finn. Like I said, he's very popular, the star quarterback of this team. He can sometimes be clueless, but the thing that a lot of people like about him and why people are so drawn to him, like Rachel, Quinn, even Will, and everyone looks to him to be the leader, both on the field and off the field, is because he's very genuine. But what surprises people the most is that he's so genuine for a popular person. And something that I admire about Finn is that he has a very strong moral compass, but at the same time, he's also very lost and just doesn't know what to do with this such strong set of morals. And I feel like him having these values and being very like adamant about being a good person is something that's very important, but it comes later in the season. And we'll talk about it later in the video. But I wanted to talk about him having feelings for Rachel from his perspective more so because I think one, him having a shared passion fueled his feelings for Rachel. I do think he cared about Quinn and liked her to an extent, but him and Quinn just kind of felt like forced or expected. Of course, the head Cheerio and the captain of the football team should be together. It just makes sense. It fits. But for some reason, he has this shared interest with Rachel, and they're also spending so much time together, and they kind of have a similar personality to the point where they're both leaders. And so I feel like his connection with Rachel was a little bit more genuine, especially on his part. But I also do feel like Finn is so used to people wanting to be around him and be in his space because of his popularity and what he holds and sense of social currency, to the point where Rachel also, I think she's drawn to him for those same reasons, but also as they start to spend more and more time together and they're kind of more in Rachel's domain of expertise, and with that, Finn likes that, where he's not the best of the best, he's not the smartest person, well, not the smartest person, but just to know that Finn isn't the best person in the room and isn't the most talented person at what they're doing. I think he likes that, and it's different for him. So we see that Finn is kind of in a conflict and in this love triangle of sorts, because while he is committed to Quinn and they're dating and in a relationship, he can't deny the chemistry that he has with Rachel, and it's definitely more than just singing chemistry or their voices go well together, but it's a real connection that they're starting to see kind of form. For Quinn, like I said, she joined the Glee Club to spy for Sue, but also to kind of keep an eye out for herself and her relationship with Finn. We later learn that Quinn has a very big secret, and it's the fact that she's pregnant. She ends up dropping this bomb on Finn, and it kind of sends him into a spiral we see for the whole season. And he's kind of conflicted because, like I said, that strong moral compass, he wants to try and do what's best for Quinn, but at the same time, he's a 16-year-old boy and he has no idea what to do for a child and how to take care of a child and what his next steps should be. But also at the same time, he is kind of the already the man of the house in his family because his father passed, and you see that Finn spends so much of his life trying to honor his dad in the best way possible. And so for that, I feel like that's a big reason as to why Finn wanted to immediately man up and try and take care of Quinn as best as he could. But what Finn doesn't know is that he isn't actually the father of Quinn's baby. It's actually Finn's best friend, Puck. And with this whole situation and pregnancy, we also see that there's another love triangle happening where Quinn is the center of it. I also feel like Quinn struggles with a lot of those same insecurities that Rachel has, where it sometimes feel like she's the most popular girl in school. Why should she have the same struggles that I have? But at the same time, she's moving in a way that shows that she has those same insecurities, because the only reason why she cheated on Finn with Puck is because he was giving her some validation and reassurance that she needed at a time when she felt low and wasn't super confident in herself. Now we see that in season 1, Quinn struggles because she's losing all of the things that were so important to her, but now that she's pregnant, it has kind of humanized her in a way. With her peers, they felt like she was on a pedestal and so much higher above them, but now she feels inferior to them in a way. And so we see she loses her spot on the cheerleading team because, of course, she can't be pregnant. She can't be pregnant on the cheerleading team. That's dangerous for the baby. But then we also see that Finn feels betrayed once he finally figures out that he isn't the dad. And so she loses that perfect relationship. She has the perfect family, and she's a daughter that her parents idolize. And seeing her dad kind of feel ashamed and disappointed of her when she tells her parents that she's pregnant, she just loses so much. But then we see that Quinn falls on the Glee Club in times of hardship, we end up seeing that the Glee Club sings her a song, which one thing that you see on Glee, they will sing you a song. Whether it helps or not, they gonna sing you a song. And so they sung her songs to try and lift her spirits. And then we see that Mercedes offers to bring Quinn to church and lets her stay at her place because Quinn's parents kicked her out. And so I feel like with that, it definitely was a turning point for Quinn having that pregnancy and just losing everything that she once had before. Having that Glee Club step up and save the day for her is what kind of switched her original intentions for wanting to go into the Glee Club and then coming out with this family that she didn't know that she had. The last person I wanted to talk about is Kurt. He is an OG Glee Club member. He loves all things fashion and musical theater, so of course that's why he joined the Glee Club. But he gets picked on a lot because people feel like his love for everything that he loves, loving to be dressed well and having his hair well kept, a lot of people pick on him because they feel like those things are feminine traits. And a part of it does stem from him being stuck in the closet. He's gay, where it's to the point where he doesn't explicitly say, like, oh, yes, I am XYZ. But it's also to the point where people still feel like they know or can assume things about his sexuality just because of external things and the way that he presents himself. We do see that for a while, though, Kurt has a single dad because his mom passed away when she gave birth to him, I believe. So, him and his dad is very into football, sports, and working on cars and things like that. And so they kind of have this disconnect because they don't like the same things. But his dad feels like, well, we're father and son. Of course, we should have things in common. So Kurt tries to appease him by joining the football team, especially after his dad felt very embarrassed of him because there was a solo in Glee Club and Kurt had hit this note that typically only female singers can hit. And so when he did that as a male, his dad was feeling away. And so Kurt tried to join the football team to try and make his dad happy and gain his approval. His dad was happy for a moment, but in the long run, just all of the bullying and ridicule from his fellow teammates ended up making joining the football team do more harm than good. Eventually, Kurt was able to come out to his dad, and his dad was very supportive, not in the typical way where you feel like your parents are like, oh wow, I love that for you, that's great. But his dad said, you're my son, I'm gonna love you regardless. It's something that I've kind of always known. I've seen the hints here and there throughout your childhood, and so it's expected, and the love was still there. A lot of what we see from Kurt's character for the rest of season one is him trying to navigate his feelings and learning to deal with typical teenage problems as a queer teen, and how it's sometimes a little bit different or just an isolating experience with having to be the only person or feeling like, okay, I kind of do get along with girls better and have more common interests with girls, but then at the same time I'm still kind of expected and boxed into being the traditional type of boy. So now we know all of the characters, their personalities, and what they kind of go through this first season. Now we can talk about what makes the show camp. I do definitely think the bursting into random song makes the show camp. And I also do feel like the show was diverse for its time. We seen characters of color, like having Asian American representation through Tina and Mike, but then also having black characters like Mercedes, Rachel and Puck were Jewish, and then they also had Santana, who was Latina, and also uh, Artie was in a wheelchair. Kurt was, of course, gay. So it did have a lot of diversity for its time. We do kind of see that, okay, we have our one black person, we have two Asian people, where it's kind of like limited to one person has that one kind of quote unquote minority aspect to them. But for its time, 2009, it was out there, and it was something like unlike we've ever seen before. Typically, it would be that one minority of the show where it's something different about them than all of the other characters. And also just their extreme personalities. All of the characters are 100% like dialed into just being the most extreme version of themselves possible. I would feel like Rachel is the perfect example of that. She's a very intense person, and everyone is just very cartoonish almost in the way that their characters are written. And also just the show's unique sense of humor. I have yet to find a show that has the exact same humor as Glee. And I say it's kind of a good thing. And also just tapping into themes like bullying, teen pregnancy, and queerness at a young age for this show to be targeted towards a teenage audience. And again, in 2009, this was something that wasn't common on TV shows. Now, let's talk about what makes the show controversial. Even though I do love Glee, I do definitely think that there are some things that could make the show be controversial. And that's the fact is bullying. Yes, eventually do all the characters of the Glee Club get bullied? Yes. But a lot of times it starts with those same qualities, like I said, the things that makes people different or it makes them stand out is the reason why they're all getting bullied. And we never really see things get better for them, especially during the time that they spend in high school. We don't actually see the bullying stop or to make an episode dedicated to bullying awareness. While one of the aspects of having diverse characters they make the show camp and kind of feel like it was ahead of its time, their diverse characters didn't really have strong storylines, or it wasn't really prominent to the show. I found it kind of funny how with all of these diverse characters with different stories and different backgrounds were presented in the show and presented to be this like super, like I said, camp and just show that's ahead of its time. The storylines that of the Glee Club members that we kind of zoned in on did tend to be all of the white characters. Finn, Rachel, Quinn, Will were all of the characters that were put on the forefront for this season. While it's something definitely noticeable about season one, in my opinion, I do think it's a situation that gets addressed in later seasons. We see in season two and season three that those kind of side characters from season one do become more prominent in the storylines of later seasons. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and subscribe for more. Be sure to follow me on my other social medias on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads, all at Teen TV Deep Dive Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Bye.